Whenever teachers start using a learning management system, like Canvas or Google Classroom or Schoology, there are a couple of common first reactions. One of those first reactions is a little bit of overwhelm. You'll look at all of the different features and all of the different options and all of the buttons and everything, and you start to think, oh my goodness, there's a lot here. I don't even know what to push first. I'm afraid that I might break something, you might be thinking, and overwhelm sort of starts to seep in. But once you start to get your feet under you a little bit, there's a second reaction that seems to come up. And that might be, what in the world am I going to do with this thing? Like, what am I going to do with this learning management system? What do assignments look like? And what do good assignments look like? How can I use this in an effective way that's actually going to engage my students? And so I think a lot of times whenever we get started using these learning management systems, that's sort of where our brains start to go. And if you think about what a learning management system does in general, it's a great place for creating assignments, collecting assignments, grading assignments, leaving feedback. It's a good place for communicating with students. But it's also a great opportunity to go above and beyond, just saying, write me an essay in a document and turn it in. And I think that assignment part is kind of the struggle. I hear a lot of times whenever I do trainings on learning management systems, like I do a lot of stuff with Google Classroom, and people will say, I really need some good Google Classroom assignments. And you might be thinking something similar and saying, I really need some good Canvas assignments. And see, I think whenever we think that, it starts to show that we've got a little bit of a skewed perspective on what a learning management system actually does. Because you see, I don't know about you, but I personally believe that your learning management system is only as good as your vision for it. I like to think about it through the lens of Marie Kondo. Are you familiar with Marie Kondo? She's the tidying guru. You may have read her book. You may have seen her series on Netflix. You may have read articles about her principles. And she's got these main principles for tidying. And I found that several of them actually apply really well to learning management systems, but especially this one. It's the very first one that she offers. And she says to imagine your ideal lifestyle. Imagine your ideal lifestyle. She says that if you want to tidy, if you want to get yourself organized, then you have to know what your goal is. You have to know what you're trying to achieve. And I think there's a lot of connection between that and how we use our learning management system. If we can't imagine what it is that we'd like to do, then it's hard to get it organized and it's hard to make it work for us. And, no matter what those goals are, we are able, through those learning management systems, to create those assignments, collect that work, provide students feedback, communicate with them. And if we can envision what we want that to look like and what it looks like when it's right, when it's good, that makes a big difference. And so to help us kind of wrap our brains around all of this, because in this series of videos, we're going to be talking a lot about learning management systems, about how to make the most of them, about how to make them efficient, about how to stretch them to their limits. And whenever we do that, I think that it's helpful to have a picture of what it's designed to do. So I'm going to give you an analogy. Go with me on this for a second, okay? I really believe that your learning management system is a lot like an airport. So here's the thought behind that. Because you see, if you think about vacation, let yourself go there for just a second. Think about a vacation that you might like to take, where you might want to go. Maybe you're going to the mountains, maybe you're going to the beach, maybe you're going to the lake, whatever. As you let your mind sort of wander there for a second. Like, where would you go? What would you do? What would it feel like? And all of that. Okay, now bring it back into reality for just a second. As you were envisioning that vacation, I'll bet that you probably didn't picture the airport. And here's the reason. See, the airport is a means to an end. It's a way to get to where you want to go. When we envision our vacations, a lot of times we don't envision the airport, we envision where we want to go. And our learning management system is a lot that way. You know, the learning management system is like the airport. It's the place that our students go to be able to get to the learning experiences that we want them to have. So whenever we start to think of, oh, I need some good Canvas assignments, oh, I need some good Google Classroom assignments, we're thinking about the airport. We're not thinking about the destination. So what we really need to do, and this is kind of that big mindset shift that I think we've got to get right before we can even start talking about learning management systems. What we've got to do is we've got to think about, where do we want them to go? What do we want it to look like at the end? What are the skills that we want them to practice? What do we want them to create? You know, any of those things. When we start to get that, now we're picturing the mountains. Now we're picturing the beach. Now we're picturing the lake instead of picturing the airport. And we're going to get even more into this, this airport analogy as we go through this series of videos. Now, I've got really good news for you, because I know lots of folks in Utah use Canvas as their learning management system. See, I do a lot of trainings with Google Classroom, and I have to leave the airport analogy at the airport because Google Classroom is pretty stripped down and basic. I have good news for you if you use Canvas. It's that Canvas, see, I can amend it a little bit to say that Canvas is not just like an airport. Canvas is kind of like an all-inclusive resort. Canvas is kind of like a cruise ship where all of your meals and all of your activities and everything are there. And see, the reason for that is that it has all of these great extra tools built into it. You know, it has integrations with our productivity suite, like, G Suite or Office 365. It has the ability to record audio and record video. It has, all of these extra communication features, and there's a lot that you can actually do inside of Canvas, which is great. However, if you think about, again, going further on this ridiculous analogy, if you think about a cruise ship or an all-inclusive resort, sometimes there are also excursions. See, if you go to the resort or you go to the cruise ship, there are lots of activities that you can do. But when that cruise ship gets to port, you may want to go, swim with the dolphins, or you may want to go explore a town on the island that you're on. And so you're able to leave and go do great things too. And that's a lot like what Canvas is, if you think about it. Canvas is kind of like your all-inclusive resort where you have lots of things there, and you can stay right there on the resort grounds and you can have a great time. Or you can go to an excursion and you can go off to any of the other learning tools that are out there. And in this series of videos, we're going to be talking a lot about some of those other learning tools and how you can use those to stretch your learning management system to the limits, to be able to get the most out of it. So in this series of videos, we're going to be focusing big time on a handful of bigger picture questions. See, we could use it to do some, basic step-by-step tutorials. But there's a lot of those tutorials that are out there on the web. They're out on YouTube. In the Canvas community, there's lots of really good stuff that you can go get. But a lot of times the kinds of questions that aren't answered are not just how do I make an assignment in Canvas or my learning management system, but how do I make a great assignment? Not just how can I leave a comment, but how can I leave efficient, effective feedback that drives students forward? Not just how can I make a quiz, but how can I make a fair, accurate assessment and do so, digitally? And so those are the kinds of things that we're going to dive into in this series of videos. We're going to look at some very concrete, practical things that you can start using right away. And we're going to start in our very next video to talk about how we can make good instructions great. Those instructions that will be super clear, that will help students to get it. Because sometimes those instructions get kind of glazed over by students. So we're going to go there and we're going to keep moving forward. I know there's going to be lots of great practical stuff in these videos, and I hope you really enjoy them.